Again.
I'll start again. So Agnes Kurzweil, Environment Agency, and we are the lead partner of Transdanube Travel Stories. This is the frame of this for this event, and it's a INTERREG project which started in the half year ago, and will take till the end of this year, so 2.5 years, with 10 partners of the Danube regions. I see some partners inside in this panel, and Linz Tourism, who is organizing this event, is also our partner. So the partners, they are coming from different directions, from cultural roots, representing them, but also from natural roots like the Danube parks, and we are combining this tourism aspect also with the mobility, a sustainable mobility aspect. It's also why the Environment Agency is the lead partner, and we also have the network of the Danube Pearls in our project. So this is the partnership. The project is dealing with tourism on one hand and transport on the other, and the development of innovative tourism product was one of our main tasks in the last year, led by Georg Steiner and Gisela. And today we will present them, and these are the basis for our discussions today. I'm really looking forward to our event today, because now we go more the next step, going into practice, and I thank you very much for organizing it, Gisela and Georg. And yeah, so let's start. I think the detailed descriptions of the trails and so on will follow. Thank you for your participation, and I give the floor to Ms. Silvia Amann, who is moderating today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kurzweil, for these insights in the very interesting INTERREG project and all the efforts you have already put to these activities, and to reinvent in a way tourism at the Danube, also to bring new offers for the 21st century, to have more stories told and new stories told. So we are having today this conference and online panel. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today and to help you through the afternoon. And I'm already looking forward to very interesting discussions under the topic of the Danube, rephrased inspiration and ideas for route-based travel products along the Danube. So our official title for this afternoon, and we will have a very diverse program through the whole afternoon. So first we will have deeper reflections from distinguished speakers with a lot of background and experience, also to reflect what is a new way of tourism, how tourism offers need to be developed in a new way in order to meet customer expectations, and also to reflect on related marketing and new offers. So we will have first roughly an hour for these presentations. You will have also time to ask questions. We will group the questions at the end of the session, with one exception. So Terry Stevens has a very tight schedule and is only available for questions directly after his speech. So you can already reflect on your related questions or comments, or also contest and have other opinions in order to feed our debate during the speeches. Then we will have a second part of exchange this afternoon. This will be a panel discussion, also to see a little bit closer on already existing good practices, on people who made it already, who invented new experiences, new visions, solutions and new offers and services, and to exchange together what could be new visions also for a new tourism at the Danube River. Maybe not only on the river, but also close to the river and the surrounding areas, and also to see new perspectives and new horizons. Maybe to give you a brief insight also to who is around our digital table today. So we are having, of course, the INTERREG project partners who joined. The project leader already took the floor. Then there are people around the table who are more the storytellers, those having provided new experiences for new ways of discoveries. But also, of course, all the professionals from the tourism value chain, different backgrounds and agencies, travel agencies, of course, travel boards and organizations. So we have already, I think, a very solid ground for a good and wide debate from a wide range of perspectives and point of views. So looking very much forward. And I think this is more than enough for the introductory part. I think we can start to dig deeper, to start our reflections and to listen to our speakers. And the first in the program is Professor Georg Steiner, partner of the INTERREG program and also today organizer and host of this event and online panel discussion. He is tourism director, the city of Linz, also responsible for new positioning of city and city branding tourism with new perspectives and new offers and new ways of presenting the city. He has also various assignments at universities in order to prepare the next generation for also the Danube as a new travel route. And Professor Steiner, I think you can tell us a lot of your new narratives and new ideas related to Danube travel routes. The floor is yours. Are you ready?
Just a moment. My screen is divided now?
Not yet.
Not yet, just a moment. Okay.
Now
is it okay? Is it okay? Yes.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. And you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Very well, welcome and good afternoon, dear participants, dear partner of our Danube project. First of all, let me say thank you very much to Gisela Gruber. She organized this afternoon on this panel, and she's a very, very important pillar in this project. And I am very happy that she is assistant in our project. You saw it's a very, you see in my presentation, it's a very provocative title, Freeing the Danube from Clichés. What is behind this project, Danube Stories? Why should the Danube be traveled by land? And when we speak about traveling by land, we mean not special bike tourism. It's a small part of our vision. Biking can be a part of traveling by land, but our vision is by bus, by train, by other possibilities to come forward in a slow way. Now, yes, but my first question is, what images, what stories of the Danube do you have in your mind? And my perspective is more the part of the Danube in Germany, in Austria, in Hungary, but we can take this view in the southeastern countries as well. And I have some pictures, I have some words. What usual is Danube in our opinion, in our mind? And you see Sissi, Empress Sissi wine. I think Wachau is very dominant, Vienna, Budapest, wine, Blue Danube, Johann Strauss. This is a fact, and the question for me is always, when people come all over the world to the Danube, what pictures do they have? And when they made a ship cruise along the Danube and they go back, are there more pictures, or are there more pictures of the same, what they have an experience along the Danube? And now I have two views. On the one side, classic Danube, and on the other side, the modern Danube. In our century, a lot of buildings were built up in Linz. Yes, Linz is my my best known city, but but in Ulm, in Passau, in Engelhartszell, in Lower Austria, in Grafenegg, in Vienna, the new museum in Regensburg. Yes, and I think for Danube tourism, we should find strategies, projects, ways to bring all these new things into tourism projects, into experiences. And this is what I mean, tourism transformation. We should not only look to the old things, to the very well-known things, we should discover new things. And I think we should bring adding values to the regions, to the destination, over more points, all to the hidden places as well. Value creation, increased financial and spiritual value creation. This is what tourism has to learn. When we only ask what the client, what the customer wants, we have the situation like in Windows and not in Apple. Yes, Steve Jobs for me is my hero, to bring new pictures, to bring new ideas in products. And in tourism, we should go a little bit more away from Steve Jobs, from Apple. It is very important, and we know we need a lot of impact to recognize connections, to develop narratives. We tried it with our project Transdanube Stories, and we got a lot of inputs, and I'm very happy that a lot of partners are here. They brought us the input by history, by art and the culture, by the Romans, by nature, and so on. And the narratives are very important to bring stories in our mind, but we need more experiences. Experiences is more as visiting and is more as traveling from one point to the next point. Experience are things what I remember when I come home and I speak about this traveling along the Danube with my friends, with my partners. From visiting to encountering, I think this is in a multicultural region, what the Danube is, to find contact with people, to have a lot of speeches with not only the guides are very important, but by people are living here, are working in culture, are working in gastronomy, are working in other branches. And I think we should learn, we should bring more products for decelerated and deepened travel. The Danube could be a showcase for tourism in Europe and in the world for a region we call it smart, but decelerated and deepened travel. This is our vision by all these things what we do in combination with this project Transdanube Stories. We know Danube is on a lot of points a very successful tourism region. You know, the hotspots: Regensburg, Passau, Wachau, Vienna, Budapest. Linz, in my opinion, isn't a hotspot. It's a beginning, for example. I hope so. But we are hidden places like Krems, like Győr, like Pécs, like Novi Sad. Novi Sad is European Capital of Culture in this year. And it is about touring the Danube, not visiting individual hotspots. This is our target by all activities what we do, that we have experience for the whole river or for a longer part, for 500, 800 kilometers over 2, 3 or 4 countries. And I think the use of cultural routes makes them significant and effective. We have a lot of examples. We work together with the route of emperors and kings. We are managing this route from Linz tourism, but the Roman emperors and Danube wine route, the Martins of Tours route, the Jewish heritage route, the Itavitis, Art Nouveau routes that are included to the Transdanube Travel project. And we should bring more life and more frequency, more acceptance into this route for using in tourism. The vision, what we have is smart, conscious, value-added and respectful tourism. And we saw it, we made a lot of analysis by creating our Danube stories. There is so much content what we should use with this direction in these ways with this vision. And I think we should start in Europe. The stories, I think, they are very useful for products for the European countries. But I think the stories can also develop for the United States, for China, for example, for India or for the Arabic countries. But we have to change the stories. I think we have to learn the intercultural translation. What we need that people from these countries find the right connections, to their own culture, to their own countries. The Danube, I think, has sound and appeal throughout the world, and we should use it. But the Danube alone, to say, come to the Danube, come to Austria, it's not enough. The Danube, it's necessary to go more in the narratives what we developed here. Now, some aspects to our stories. For further internationalization, the Danube must be culturally translated, as stated, and processed. And the stories are 6 stories what we developed. Danube Europe, the discovery of a liquid space. I think in these days when a new war is coming over Europe, into Ukraine, the process isn't at the end, and it's not very good what we have now in Ukraine, and Ukraine is a part of Danube. Yes, and some years ago we had the same situation in Serbia. Danube is a living space, but I hope cultural experiences come to an end that only a peaceful region is good for the people and not more discovering through different players here in the world. Our second story is about nature, returning to the last Danube, nature and mankind. When you come to the end of the Danube, you have a very, very nice nature, and in the countries more at the beginning of the Danube, there is culture changed the Danube by power craft stations, by bridges, by cities and so on. Our third story is about the Romans. You know, we have now a part of the Danube is UNESCO cultural heritage. The fourth story is about trading, the exchange of stories and goods. The fifth story is about cultural harvest along the Danube, art, music, all cultural epochs are represented along the Danube. And the sixth story is Danube for the soul, all religious activities by Catholic, by Protestants, by the Orthodox, by Jewish and so on, were here on the Danube, and we have fascinating things on the one side, and we have very dramatic things on the other side, founded by religious activities. Okay, I come to the end. Experience Europe on the Danube. We should composing the Danube as a great symphony. Thematic components by our travel stories, experiences, encounters. I think it's very more important than ever. The Danube touches the soul, the palate, the mind, making the Danube shine and sound. This is what we can compose, what we can realize in tourism. Let's make more out of the great wealth of history, monuments, nature, art, culture, culinary, literature, music. There is so much, and I think a lot of things what we can use for a better, for a smarter, for a more experienceful tourism. And this is my input. Thank you very much for your interest, and we can discuss about this further along this afternoon, and I give back to Sylvia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Steiner, for all these insights and also a first overview on the different travel stories on which you are working and reflecting on. As you have maybe seen already from the chat, Terry Stevens will not be able to make it this afternoon due to being stuck in a traffic jam, but he will record his intervention and it will be made available then for the documentation.
Good morning. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but it's a pleasure to be talking to you today. I live in Wales in the United Kingdom and hope that what I'm going to say will be of interest to you and provoke some discussion. So the times really are a-changing. And what I want to look at are some of the trends and changes in supply and demand affecting tourism and our way out of the crisis. So it's about sustainable tourism development and imperatives, the priorities to change the way we think in order to develop a balanced future visitor economy. I think there are 4 imperatives. The first is about understanding trends, thinking about the idea of transformation. What is transformation? The importance of leadership and the fundamental importance of the destination as a community. So seeing the community as a destination and the destination as a community. Well, COVID has clearly had a significant, profound impact on the tourism industry. It's exposed many things, many fragilities within the tourism industry. But I think most of all, it's exposed the emptiness of city slogans and the silliness of destination branding, whilst amplifying the importance of the way a destination behaves and manages its reputation, and of course, manages its visitors. Throughout COVID, we've spent our time fretting, worrying about the new normal, when we should be talking about the new extraordinary. The pandemic has precipitated scientific advancement, championed innovation, and ushered in a new age of collaboration, challenge, and accelerated change. I'm very optimistic. Tomorrow's tourists will care. They will care about the environment, they'll care about the places they're visiting, they'll care about the way in which we treat communities as tourism businesses, and the way in which we respect and treat our visitors. And importantly, what it means is destinations will become known for the things that I, the visitor, care about. So there's a revolution going on. Tourism has evolved over the last 30 years, but now we're into a place where speed of change is quickening up. There's definitely rebellion and a revolution in the air. And we've moved to a place where community means common unity. And the new paradigms are meaning that the shifting of balance to a collective responsibility to deliver responsible sustainability. Interesting times. So key concepts are emerging. This idea of common unity, common values, common vision, common trust, common sense. We're moving to a need for a balance, equilibrium within the way in which we manage a community as a destination, and shared actions for a sustainable future. We have been monitoring a number of paradigm shifts that are taking place in tourism, affecting both demand and supply. And here they are. We're seeing hybridity everywhere, novel, unique solutions to tourism challenges. And what that is meaning is that it's becoming increasingly difficult to define what a product is in tourism. There's sorts of blurring around the edges. The next shift we're seeing is that outliers, ideas, projects, concepts that would be regarded as left of field are now rapidly becoming mainstream. Who'd have thought it becoming mainstream? We talked about co-creation in tourism for a long time, but that's now becoming real and center stage. Collaborative experience creation, bringing together 3, 4, 5 different businesses to deliver an integrated visitor experience, which means that we're becoming much more dependent on each other and our partners. So codependency is becoming very, very fundamental. The ecosystem of tourism, not an ecosystem, working together in a codependent state. Transformation is everywhere, boldly going where no one's been before. And in order to achieve hybridity, allowing outliers to develop co-creation, codependency, we all have to become much more elastic, fluid, agile, dynamic. We're repurposing old assets for new uses. Talent is becoming more important than skills and expertise. So at a time when it's becoming increasingly difficult to find people to work in tourism, start thinking about the talent somebody has. They may be a great singer or can play the guitar well. So is that going to become more important to you than being a very good night porter in a hotel or having expertise in food service? We have to look at people differently and start perhaps linking their talents to the jobs and experiences we now need delivering. And in all of this, we are all recalibrating, rethinking what we mean as value. Value means more than price. And in all of this, we're seeing the emergence of what I call the modern pirates. People who are shaking up the status quo, they're rule breakers, they're agents of change. And in creating new products and experiences, they go beyond self-interest. It's not just about making money. It's about doing good for communities, doing good for the tourist. And here are some of these new pirates, new actors. The guitarist is the bass guitarist of a rock band in America called Wilco. And he is single-handedly changing the positioning and the products in a town called New Adams in Massachusetts. In the top right, we see these investors from South Africa who've created the most extraordinary product called Babylon Storen near Cape Town, who've now arrived in rural southern England and have completely changed the way we think about farming, farming's relationship with art, and farming's relationship with tourism. And the same with the couple in the bottom. Swiss art dealers who turn up in rural England and change the way we think about visitor attractions and visitor experiences. And there's this lady. She's a former journalist. She has an interest in digital art, and she is also a tourism operator. But you put journalism together with digital art, with touristic facilities and experiences, and we change what is happening. So look out for the new pirates, radical thinkers, hybrid thinkers, bringing hybrid solutions. This guy, he's a sculptor, and he's created this wonderful visitor attraction in a town called Blackpool in England. It is the size of 4 football pitches, and it is the story of 1,000 of the funniest jokes ever told in the theatre in Blackpool. Some of the jokes you have to climb to the top of a tower to read. Some of them you get on your hands and knees to read. But it attracts 2 million visitors a year. Nobody is employed, there's no admission charge, and people come there to resurrect their memories of the past. Groups are coming there and holding dance festivals on it. It's called the Comedy Carpet. It's brilliant, it's hybrid, it changes the way we think. All of these trends are disrupting the status quo. And here are a few places to look at to inspire you about hybrid thinking, hybrid solutions, disrupting the status quo. Here in Copenhagen, the Cycle Kitchen, delivering food and drink where you want it. Extraordinary. In New York, have a look at The Ride. So this is a combination of a traditional tour meets augmented reality, meets live performances on the sidewalks. Changes everything we think about a guided tour. In Harlingen in the Netherlands, a 3-bedroom, 5-star hotel, 1 room in the crane, 1 room in the lifeboat, 1 room in the lighthouse, changing the way we think about hotel rooms. Here we are in South Wales, where this destination wanted a new wall to defend against rising sea levels, but they wanted it to become a visitor attraction. So it's called the Barry Island Visitor Wall. and it's very clever. It's made out of recycled plastic toys, and it's a climbing wall for children. A great attraction, very clever, hugely profound in the messages about recycling for the future. And here we are in the Basque Country. 40 miles away in Bilbao, they spent 100 million euros on the Guggenheim Museum. But this is an iconic attraction. It's a sculpture called Comb of the Wind by a Basque sculptor. It doesn't charge an admission fee, doesn't employ anybody, and it attracts 1 million more visitors than the Guggenheim each year. So there's different ways of trying to solve the problem. And that's my message. We're at a time of hybrid thinking and hybrid solutions. We need you to think out of the box. Slovenia has a great program called Slovenian Unique Experiences. Please Google it. Please try the experiences. We're at a time where we have to be bolder than we've ever been in the past. So my challenge to you is, why not think of the things you've not thought of in the past? And in doing that, be bolder than you are today. So thank you very much indeed. I hope these ideas have inspired some fresh thinking.
So I take the occasion to go forward in the program, and we are having with us Gabor Bodis from the Budapest Metropolitan University, and also from Hungary Next Place Branding Association. And you are working very much in marketing, in innovation and creativity. So you are having also very close link to the creative industries. And I think Gabor Bodis is also working for Hungarian creative industries development, is member of the Association of Tourism Developers and Consultants, and also working on many interdisciplinary activities. And he is also a journalist. So we will have great input from a person who knows how to use words and to share his thoughts. May I invite you for yes, sharing your presentation. It will be on the title of New Developments in Experimental Marketing, Digitalization and Marketing of Route-Based Offers, Sustainability as a Selling Proposition. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introductory sentences and everything you have listed about my jobs and experiences. I don't want to kill your time with some more words on what I'm doing and what the experiences are here in the background of myself. So let's jump into the deep water with both of our legs instead. And my topic is sustainability as a selling proposition. This can be a very intellectual approach, a very thematical approach to the story or the stories that we want to share with the future travelers. But everything is rooted in practical basis. I have got 3 subtitles. Each of them could be talked about, let's say, half a day, but I'd like to keep it very short, just to give you some insights about the new developments in experimental marketing, digitalization, how we use the data, what data we will need in the future, and of course, the marketing of route-based offers. So let's begin with the main question. Of course, Danube is rephrased, but what else is rephrased? point number one here is the traveler is rephrased. The second point will be the discussion of the destination, which is rephrased. And of course, the measures should be rephrased. And the future of tourism, the future of destinations should be rephrased. The question is, who is the new traveler? If you want to rephrase this word visitor, we have to experience and learn at least two things. One, that we will continue our travel habits. Whatever the situation is, traveling can reconcile very easily within a short period of time, and we can't really stop our inner intention to move from a point to another one. But the new traveler is rephrased as a travel shopper, because traveling seems to be a lifestyle extension. And in this context, a visitor would like to experience three things, and it is true for the general consumer as well. One of them is the contrast. The other one is the selection. And the third one is the surprise. So very simply speaking, a customer today needs these three things: a contrast, which means different from the earlier experiences or the routine that he or she is in, then excitement, then the alternatives and simplicity. And I'm very happy that we could work out the routes, because a route is a simplification of values. We just simply link the values into a sensible meaning, and we can create alternative value chains. And also the surprise is something that we need when we travel, because we want to experience something unexpected. And of course, the experience should be lovable. The places should be lovable, because we want to make some stories, our own stories created from the experiences. So the travel shopper is more or less a drifter, a discoverer who needs a deeper immersion in the stories, whatever we have got around us. And what he or she is looking for is the meaningful local values. I brought the example of Peter Galambos from Hungary, who is a European champion in rowing. And why is he a good model to represent the destination, a future destination, which should have a character? Because Peter is followable, iconic, inspiring, and competitive. And if we have these four pillars in our destination, if the destination, whatever size it has got, is something that has got a face or identifiable merits and characteristics, like the 6 alternative routes alongside the river Danube, and addresses us. So there is an intensive communication, feedback, and in a continuous exchange of values, we can develop our products and services further and further. Also, Peter, on his t-shirt, represents a nation's values, a country. And of course, Danube is over the boundaries. It's a multinational destination, if you can say that. But as Professor Tanner introduced in his speech, the value set is quite broad that we can operate with. And also Peter will dynamize us, as he's a sports person, can make us or can inspire us in order to do something, to act, to move, and enjoy and explore our nature and the societies. The next one that I wanted to share with you is a little bit longer description of what the destination should do in order to have a characteristic face or area. First of all, creating a new way of thinking. That's the mindset transformation. Not only should we transform the visitation, tourism, in other words, but the way of thinking at the same time. Having an innovative, forward-looking strategy rather than defensive strategies like it's mine, it is my area, I want to market it myself, I want to invest it into myself. It is not the future. Instead of narrating exclusivity, we should rather narrate inclusiveness, inclusivity. And it means, as Professor Steiner told us a couple of minutes ago, meaningful alternative routes with multiple speed and multiple entry and exit points. And these route design can be based on the values that we want to offer and we want to show off, but can be based on the visitor experience, habits, how long they can move, what sort of transportation they prefer, and what sort of services are available along the river. Having even closer links with local communities, new tourism will teach us the locality is very important. Creating engagement with stakeholders in the value chain process, I don't have to explain it, I'm 100% sure, and doubling the intensity of marketing communication activities, this is important as well. Let me tell you, or let me show you a very simple example of a Fiat 500 La Prima as it shows us what is currently happening out in the market, not in the field of tourism necessarily, or not yet, but in the consumer market. These brands like Coca-Cola, Fiat, and all the rest would like to create categories of shoppers. And it is easy for the shopper, it's easy for the visitor as well, to find him or herself within one specific category, not because we want to simplify his or her movements and way of thinking or freedom, but because it's easier to find a value chain that is understandable and meaningful for them. And Fiat created the classic and the explore categories first, which means the normal classic way of driving in an urban area, fair enough. And there is the other one, the explore category, which is about the limitations or trying to get the best out of a certain situation. And we can say that the explore traveling is very popular today as well. But the Sherpa mode is the most interesting one, which defines the trendy category and responsible category at the same time, as it counts with all the energies, all the investments, everything that makes the destination sustainable, and we don't really want to exceed the ceilings, how we use the energies that we have in a destination. So what we need, if we want to rephrase the measures of tourism or tourism destination development, is a scale switch. So we have got to switch the scales from a very quantitative approach to a more qualitative approach, because the community will be more important than ever, because the community can show us the real authentic values at a place. Involvement is the second point in the scale switch, which means the humans will be more important than ever. So all the 6 stories that Professor Steiner showed us are based on humanity, not GDPs and these sort of industrial measurements. And the third one is the greening, sustainability, of course. If we look at plant tea imported from Austria for a second, they declared the future-oriented system of indicators. It means how tourism should be approached, and we don't want to put all the quantities into the dustbin, because it's a people-to-people business, so we need the money. But the emphasis should be put on the qualities, like what is the added value of the place? What is the added value of the local community to a stay or vacation of a visitor at that place? Or to what extent are the locals involved? Or what about the satisfaction? Are the new customers happy when they come to the place? And the last one is what are the green practices? And we can measure the green practices, the share of renewable source of energy in gastronomy and in accommodation and so on. So it is not impossible to look at the destination from that angle. Coming to the very end of my speech and presentation, I'd like to show a futures consciousness model, which is developed by future researchers. Time perspective, agency belief, openness to alternatives, systems perception, and concern for others. These are the 5 pillars of this general future consciousness model. And thanks God, these pillars are very easy to translate into destination or tourism language and say how the destination will be future-proof. Time will mean ongoing. Agency belief, that we want to act, means that we would like to show what is behind the mainstream or the stage. And openness to alternatives, this is what we show. We have at least 6 major categories to choose from. And system perception, that we want to put everything, our ways of thinking, into narratives and express them in a very nice and meaningful, systematic way. And concern for others is the last one, which means involvement and taking care of the nature as well as the societies. So all in all, sustainability is crucially and truly a selling proposition, because it means ongoing activities. People need activities to choose from. Off-stage alternatives, which means we want to invite them to look behind the main stage and not just consume the top 10 attractions, not just consume the mainstream bucket lists, but something different and something more personal. Openness to attitudes, it means education, educating the locals a little bit, but educating the visitors as well, how to welcome, how to make this really important meeting in tourism meaningful. So yes, it is not a visitation anymore in the future, but as Professor Steiner told, it's an encounter, a deeper encounter. And ordering connections, it means connecting the stakeholders, connecting the values, and connecting the destinations that are rivals, but they can share those services and values that the other destination may not have. And responsibility is the last one. The others, we should be responsible for the nature, and we should be responsible for the societies. So this is the mindset transformation that I mentioned a couple of moments ago. And that was it. I hope it wasn't too theoretic, and I'm always ready to answer the questions if you have any towards the end.
Thank you, Professor Bodis. It was a very interesting insight, and I can only repeat the invitation. So to reflect already on questions after the third and last speaker, we will have a moment in order to exchange with the participants. I think it was also very interesting to have this broader insight also related to general consumer trends or debates also in marketing or also in developing new selling propositions. So let's see how we will discuss about it later on. Thank you again for your insights and for your speech. So this brings us to our third speaker. We are very happy to have with us Julia Balatka, already branded with a major Vienna sightseeing hotspot. So she's easy to be found on the screen. Julia Balatka is owner of GB Travel. It's if I understand, travel agency already specializing in ecologically and socially responsible travel products and travel offers. She's working in the tourism industry for more than 20 years, is also in the expert committee for the Austrian Eco Label for Travel. She's also co-founder of the Conscious Tourism Group and also experienced in several EU projects and training offers and training activities. And Julia Balatka will speak about the following topic: what does sustainability in traveling mean? Is conscious travel the necessary follow-up on this development? And she will speak and provide us her information without the presentation. So you can also switch on your cameras and follow directly her intervention. Julia Balatka, please go ahead, provide us with your insights and your experience related to the topic of today. Thank you.
Thank you also for the short introduction who I am. Yes, I have a travel agency and a tour operator, and I'm a one-woman show. And at the beginning, I thought I'll just explain what sustainability means, because very often we just use words and everyone has his own concept, and sustainability is very often used just in the context of meaning long-lasting, but sustainability just doesn't mean long-lasting. And at the Conscious Tourism Group, it's a cooperative that we founded last year. Normally, sustainability has 3 pillars. It's the economical pillar, of course, because without economics, nothing is working. And it's the ecological one. That's the one everyone has in mind when we are talking about sustainability. But it's not only about ecology. It's definitely also about the social, and sometimes it's called the social cultural dimension. And we at the Conscious Tourism Group, we said actually even this isn't enough. It just reflects to what we heard in the two speeches before, because we said there's another pillar that's just as important, that's the consciousness, because if we are not aware of what's going on, if we are not aware of what we are doing, if we are not conscious of what's happening around us and in the world, then I guess nothing makes sense anyway. And the fifth dimension, we thought it's so important that we should really give it a fifth dimension. It's the communities. And it's also, as we heard already, communities are getting more and more important. And especially in tourism, when you're a tourist, you're part of so many different communities. You're part of the group you're traveling with. Even if you're an independent traveler, you're part of the group of all the other tourists, of all the other visitors. And you come across to so many other communities, and every community just has different interests. So like when you're traveling to some place, you become kind of part of the community of the place you're visiting. If you stay in wherever you are staying, you're also part of the community of the accommodation. And when you go shopping, you're part maybe of the community of the other shoppers. And why we think that this community-based thinking really is so important to make sure that tourism products really are sustainable, because sustainability means that you make sure that future generation can just enjoy what you are enjoying. And future generations are just really very far ahead. The world is changing a lot, very fast at the moment in many ways. And but still there are things that we can destroy. And I guess the last 100 years was I guess the best practice of how fast we can destroy our own environment. And just to make sure that also future generations will be able to visit also the Danube region and to enjoy the Danube region, what it has to offer. We just have to make sure to keep it. And if we want to show all the possibilities that a region has, it just really makes sense to get in contact with all the communities, to find out all the different interests they have. For example, because if you don't, what might happen is that too many visitors are coming, and then we have over tourism, and nobody wants, I guess, to live in a place where there are so many tourists that you can't do anything yourself anymore. And when there are too many tourists, and when the interest of a region, of a destination, focus too much on the tourists, it will just not be a nice place to live as a local. So what you lose the authenticity, and if you lose the authenticity, tourists might not come anymore. So this, I guess, is the biggest problem of tourism in general, that it has a very that it might have a very bad impact by destroying what it actually lives on: the beauty of a place, the beauty of culture, the lovable people. And so you just have to find out the balance between all the different communities. And if you do this, I do believe if you do it in a way to make sure also future generation can enjoy what you're enjoying, then it really is sustainable. And sustainability for us also has a lot to do with authenticity. And authenticity means you don't have to invent, you don't have to pretend. Just look very closely what you find, what is already here. It's really wonderful to rephrase things, to put things into a new context, but you don't have to build I don't know, a great building to make a place interesting. It makes more sense to check out what there is already and then build on this with all the existing things and what's going on. It will attract so many more people. And whenever I hear that we want more experience, and experiencing everything is kind of the new way of life, not just visiting, then let's just remember what experience means. If you experience something, it means you feel something. If you visit just something, you might just look at it. But if you take your time, if you stop, if you slow down, and if you allow to get conscious of your own feelings, that's what we call experience. So this is why a lot of things are just, I guess, in our human nature anyway, to slow down, to take your time, to be aware of what's going on, and to feel what you're feeling, and to enjoy it. And the moment you enjoy it, I guess it's also in our nature to make sure to keep it, to show it to others, to make sure others can also enjoy it. And so I guess that's the most important message I do have about sustainability in tourism. And I myself, I always prefer to go into the conversation and to give the people the questions, to know where they are in their images when we talk about sustainability in tourism, what they want to know. So I would rather, instead of speak 10 minutes, I would really rather open the floor for question and discussion. And so at the moment I'm done, but I'm happy to say more.
Thank you, Julia Balatka, with all your insights on sustainability. And there were also new information for me. Of course, there is a lot of ongoing discussion on the different pillars of sustainability and sustainable development goals. But I think it was very interesting to see also your broader approach and your broader way of thinking related to additional pillars to the concept of sustainability, and also to see all the activities you are doing in a longer term perspective. And in that sense, to have a very simple message also related to sustainability. And you opened already the floor, so that means you are looking forward to a lot of questions, as our two other speakers do. And to make things a little bit organized, I propose that people raise their hand. So there is this Zoom function where you can raise your hand. You can, of course, also put questions to the chat. And of course, other speakers are also invited to react on what they have heard from their colleagues. I think all the three presentations were in a way complementary, but had all their own aspects and elements and different angles and also different positions in the overarching tourism ecosystem. From the cross-sectoral perspective, from the point of view of a city tourism leader, and also from a travel agency. So are there questions? So let's have a look into the round, or comments from the other speakers. Or maybe Ms. Balatka, maybe you are having also questions for your audience, because this is now your community also, maybe to also a little bit challenge them, or maybe also to exchange on different experiences of communities, as it's always also a little bit tricky to discuss online. It's not what is the most inspiring setting for big debates, as we are only seeing half of our bodies, and then discussion might be a little bit more complex. So I look into the round again, but there is, of course, also no obligation to...
There's one thing that I really want to put out very clear, but if someone raised his hand, I can also say it afterwards.
Okay, maybe you say it afterwards, because we are having a question from Sebastian Frankenberger, or maybe comment. The floor is yours. Please go ahead.
No, it's a comment, or it's also a question. Yeah, thanks for the invitation to this panel. It's interesting to get new ideas. The problem is that those who should work with the new ideas and who should work with sustainability, especially along the Danube, the river cruise companies, are not here. Because I'm working with a lot of river cruise companies, and what I realized, they all said, yes, the pandemic will change everything, and we will have smaller groups, and we will have we will talk about sustainability and will change our programs. It's completely the opposite. They're doing exactly the same what they have done before the pandemic. They try to reduce the prices, to rise up the group size again, because they say we have so much pressure with the money and all that. It's not, it's just for their profit, and they can have smaller groups. So when we talk about, you talked about the community, and the community means the travelers, the visitors. Can they make pressure on these river cruise companies, or they just care about the price and they do not care about what's really going on? So I will say in 2 years we have over tourism again. Perhaps we have 1 or 2 companies special or focusing on something new, but the rest is doing exactly the same like before the pandemic.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Frankenberger. Let's listen then to Georg Steiner. Professor Steiner, please, yes. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for this input. But I think the cruise companies are not the first target group in this project. It could be that some travel agents, some actors in this business will can be a first mover, but our activities are going on in more value to bring more value in the Danube region by tourism not on the river, by tourism along the river. And when we bring an experience, a message to the Danube that other players will make a copy of this, I think it will be very, very good. But we will not start with the cruises. In the Danube cruises, I think there is the most industrialized process going on the last 20 years. And our project, I think, or my motivation to work in this project is to make a strategy against this, what was going on in the last 20 years. That on the one side, there are a lot of million tourists was on the Danube, but the value was not so strong, and the pictures in their mind and what they bring back from the Danube was not so that we can find that the cliches were the same pictures, the same cliches after 20 years. Danube cruise tourism are the same, and I think we need a strategy. The Danube is more, and the Danube can be a stage for tourism to use it to make an experiment in a new way. This is the direction what we try, and I hope in some years or in some 10-20 years also the cruise actors come to the philosophy what we are discussing here.
Thank you, Professor Steiner. The next one who wants to raise some new elements maybe is Professor Bodis. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the word. So we have to clearly understand that if we continue our industrial approach to tourism, we won't survive. That's a very strict sentence, but we will not survive. So what we can do alternatively is to offer not just the classic, comfortable vacation for the visitors that, hey, here is a river cruise ship, sit on it and enjoy the comfort, luxury, and the nice view. But there are alternatives, not just the classic one, which has part, of course, in the portfolio, but we have the explore and we have the responsible, the trendy traveler category, and we have to communicate it. The we is not the cruise ship company. It is the National Tourism Organization. It is the regional or international tourism boards forming a sort of association. But we have to look at the whole business in a very responsible way, unless we can say goodbye to ourselves in 2030 or even earlier. So it is not a joke. We have to take it into consideration because growth is not unlimited. We can't really say that we have the consumer development and we have no limits when we consume everything, because everything is available and everything can be sold and everything can be purchased. It is not the story anymore. We have to introduce alternatives, and alternatives are routes. Routes because the customer is like a stupid potato, sorry to say that, but we'll choose the easy and comfortable way, and we can offer alternatives. Don't sit just on the cruise ship, but explore the nature, explore the communities, explore the societies in a deeper way. And if we can show it off, it will work, because not the people are close-minded necessarily. They are ready to consume these values in an alternative way if we can very simply tell them, like the example of the Fiat 500 La Prima model. There are 3 ways how to drive it, not just one way, 2 other ways, and we have to show it.
Thank you very much. So a plaidoyer for the easy but new way of doing things. Julia Balatka, now it's your turn.
First of all, to thank you, Gabor Bodis, for this sentence that if we continue industrial approach tourism, we cannot survive. I thank you very much. It's good to hear it, because yes, that's true. And I don't like the word industry in the context of tourism, because I'm a one-woman show. I'm definitely far away from being an industrial thing. Yeah. But yes, I am a tourism expert, and I am working in the field of tourism, in the tourism sector, whatever you want to call it, but please do not call it industry. What I want to point out, because of what Sebastian Frankenberger said, is there is a responsibilities that we cannot give the companies. Why should a cruise ship company change anything if there is no need for change? There is a political responsibility, and I think we have to the politicians have to set the regulations, and it's through the communities of the inhabitants who say, please, we don't want so many tourists in this place, so please limit. It's so easy to limit tourists because as long as we cannot beam from one place to another, they have to come by some means of transport, and you can always limit the transportation, the numbers of people who are carried, the numbers of airplanes who are allowed to start and who are allowed to arrive, the numbers of ships who are allowed to travel the Danube. It really is really very, very easy. It would be very, very easy, and that's a political issue. And the responsibilities is the framework has to be set by politicians and definitely not by a company, because the company doesn't have the overview. They don't know. They just come. They just do what sells. They just want to make some money, but that's okay. If you want them to work in a greener way, you have to give them the possibilities to do so. And with the cruise ships on the Danube, there are so many issues that definitely could be done much better. But I don't think it's the responsibilities in the first place of the cruise ship. I think that it's in the first place really of the politicians.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ms. Balatka. So there is a lot of activity which is required on different levels, maybe with the political level as a starting point, but at the very end, which kind of politicians we have depends also on the activity of all of us. So sometimes it's also dangerous to say the political level has to do something, because then it's also something like a waiting position. And I think we want to become very active for a more rapid and positive change in this framework and in this project. And so let's see, what is your point, Roland Nordermeer from River Cruise app? Please go ahead.
Yeah. When I used to live in the Netherlands, in a multicultural city, it was always very interesting. We had this street festivities, eat with, and then you would eat with all these different cultures, sit on a table, and then you meet actually your neighbor. And if you have some kind of association or something with bed and breakfasts, that the people understand the narrative. And when you go to this chain of bed and breakfasts in these regions, which is on the Danube, mainly in the east border region, so there can maybe be subsidies from INTERREG, that you have more B&Bs, not convince, but try to give a chance to the local community, the people, to have bigger houses, a bed and breakfast, and that they understand also the narrative and that they share. And then they share their culture, their tradition. And that's the best experience you can have. Of course, who is going there? You were mentioning with the river cruises. Yeah, these people, they want to have the security, the comfort of group travel, and also be able to move around themselves. They realize, okay, it's pretty safe over here. Maybe I come back on my own. But there needs to be some kind of trust and security for travelers to do that. Otherwise, you always have pioneers, a certain group of people. But I think bed and breakfast or Airbnb or eat with, these kind of things, yeah, that's the best experience, of course, because then you really have the encounter and cultural sharing, and you can have in all these B&Bs information about the Danube narratives, and that they tell the same story with a bit of themselves in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Thank you very much for these practical advices and examples how also offers could be further developed, or yes, further deepened, or further, how could I say, brought to the market, to those being interested. Next one in the row, and this is the last comment in this section, is from Christoph Mühleder. Please go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to strengthen what Professor Bodis and Julia said, and I really also liked your sentence, Professor Bodis, that if we continue in this way we do, and this is not only concerning tourism, but we are talking today about tourism, of course, but if we continue like this, we will our Earth will be destroyed in 20, 30, 40 years, and nothing will be like it is today. If not this crazy war in Ukraine does the same thing much faster, but this is another topic. But really, I think it is very important on the one hand to make to do awareness raising, to say to make efforts in as you said, sustainability as a unique selling proposition. That's what we do, and the community of people who is appreciating that is growing, but it will not be enough. We need a radical change, and for this we need the political component. We need laws. We need taxes on unecological and unsocial behavior. And it frightens me a little bit that we have today again the discussion on, for example, to not install the CO2 tax because of the energy crisis. This is we have to hold against this, and really we have to push our politicians to go with us on a sustainable way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Christoph Mühleder. This was a big plaidoyer for ecological transformation, and let's see how we go deeper in our discussion now. Thank you for all your contributions and for the presentations and all your thoughts and inputs related to our broader debate. But now we want to continue with our panel discussion. So already two speakers of the panel took briefly the floor in this session. So we will have with us Sebastian Frankenberger again. We will have also Dr. Christoph Mühleder with us. Then I'm also very happy to welcome in the panel round Dr. Roland Kastler, with the beautiful library background being with us, and also Bernd Lopov is with us. So this will be now panel discussion, and also after the panel discussion we will provide again all the participants with a moment in order to step in, to ask questions, to make comments, to discuss. But first we want to initiate a debate between the four. I will ask you questions, but at the same time, I invite you already to really react and interact between the four of you, really to use the moment for a debate and also for common reflection and for deepening maybe different standpoints. So we start, and my first invitation for you would be, I would like you to present very briefly yourself with a few keywords, but at the same time, what is your vision? What must be changed in tourism now again concretely? What is the most important maybe next and first step? So I would like to start with Bernd Lopov, and please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm sitting here in Hamburg. I am Bernd Loppo. I work for Die Zeit, German weekly newspaper, more than 600,000 copies this year. And I was in former times in my first life an editor of Die Zeit for travel and trade. And 22 years ago, I founded Zeitreisen. That's the tour operator for our readers. And yeah, already we are 50 people. We survived Corona, and yeah, we as our clients are interested very much in cultural topics, we got in contact to Georg Steiner 1.5 years ago to this very great project of the Danube, reinventing the Danube. And so we planned a great tour. It's one of our lighthouse projects. Maybe first of all, I can tell you one of our most important and most successful travels or trips are our long-term trips with our bus from Hamburg to Shanghai, not possible since 2 years, around the around the Mare Balticum, on the traces of Alexander von Humboldt, 60 days in South America. I mention this because we learned that combining, creating and composing connections between countries and cultures, between religions and habits, food and nature, connecting continents with each other can be very successful if you do it in the right way, because you have the customers who want these projects. And one of those projects is our great tour from along the Danube, from the spring, not to Odessa as we planned before, now to Bucharest. We had to cut the end of the travel, but we are going to the Donau Delta in 33 days. And we have been following the project for 15 months now, and we are combining, we try to combine the most essential points of the 6 routes into one great route. And that's what we hope to do this year at the end of August until the beginning of October, 33 days. Nobody knows if it will be possible now, but the success of our other routes, for example, last year we had 2 buses around the Mare Balticum, shows us that this kind of tourism can work and will work very well.
Mm-hmm. So I hear a lot about connections and new cooperations, maybe as a kind of overarching element of future offers and tourism products. What do you think, Dr. Roland Kastler? What is your main vision or statement? And maybe
let me say one last sentence, and Roland Kastler is the next speaker. Our project was only possible with the help of Kastler Reisen. Together we had, I think, some good inspirations. Hello, Roland.
Hello, Bernd. Danke. Thank you for the nice words. And we are happy to cooperate with INTERREG. It's a very wonderful product, and it has already a lot to do with the things we mentioned already. So what I think of the future of traveling, for me, we can see already from the past that traveling has changed a lot, and this change will continue in the future. I think that identifying principles for societies, nations, peoples will be more clear in the future because of the focus on consciousness in general. Therefore, the transcending principles has to be worked out more precisely, or particularly for the first time. To provide experiences of such transcending principles in order to get a deep and authentic contact to societies, people, inhabitants of regions, cities, and so on, will be one of the main targets of future traveling. What I mean is, knowledge is increasing, and therefore we have to work out knowledge-based journeys. Knowledge in the sense of self-awareness of the regions which we are focusing on. But at the same time, reason is more and more enriched by emotion, spirituality, and intuition. And traveling in the future has to fulfill these requirements. So this is what I mean in future time. All the cultural diversity of music, art, literature, architecture, and so on has to be stressed explicitly, and the guests should be in a position to abstract out identifying principles, for example, for the Danube region.
So there is a lot of food for thought here and a lot of fundamental principles which should guide all the action. Also to come up with new ways of doing, and also I hear a plaidoyer for a big change which already started and will continue. And this brings us back to Christoph Mühleder. Maybe you present briefly yourself and maybe also your overarching vision and view, what is needed.
Okay, yes, thank you, Silvia. I am the founder of Weltanschauen, a small travel agency, travel company in Austria. And we are focusing on sustainable, ecologically and socially sustainable traveling. My background is that I studied business administration, so I have an economic background, which is, Julia said it already, quite important for, it's the basis for having whatever company. And but I see Weltanschauen as a social business, because we are trying to reach also targets for the society. My other background is that I worked for now more than 20 years in the social field. I work for Caritas in the international development cooperation and humanitarian aid. So at the moment we are a little I missed the word, occupied by by the things that are going on in Ukraine. And this social context is also, I bring it into my travel business. So it's really, beside the ecological component, for example, we try not to fly within Europe, and mostly it is possible, and mostly this is also a USP that we have, because there are people who are looking for such trips. There are also people who say, "You're stupid, I don't sit 2 days in the train to go to London." Oh no, it's not 2 days, it's faster. But anyway, so, and yeah, but this is the one thing, the ecological component that is very important for me, and that really try to do it in my trips. And the other thing is the social component, that people that we support people, that we do something against poverty and not create poverty, and this is possible with a fair and sustainable tourism. So it can be a trigger for a positive development. It can reduce poverty. It can protect nature and resources. But the mainstream tourism is doing the opposite, and that's what we are all together fighting for and promoting. And the other thing, what I want to say, and what is very important to me, is that I think traveling, and this thought is not from me. I read it in Ilya Trojanov's book, Gebrauchsanweisung für das Reisen. It's really a privilege to travel. It's a big privilege that we have in the rich world. And so it should be a possibility for us to change. And it's not only holidays, it's not only relaxing. It's it should widen our horizon. We should learn. We should develop ourselves. We should do something that changes the world to a better place. And that's what traveling is for, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this means traveling also to maybe discover own, to a certain extent, the own personality or the own way of doing, and use it also for a further reflection.
Exactly.
Let's see how our fourth panelist will contribute to this debate. I say hello again to Sebastian Frankenberger. Please go ahead with your statement and present yourself and your activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm from the Danube Guides, a company founded a few years ago. We support river cruise company or all companies along the Danube with guides, with excursion programs from Nuremberg down to Budapest. I myself survived the pandemic with guiding more and more bike groups. So we now found a new company specialized for bike groups. One of the projects is to bike the Danube from the source to the delta down there. So this year we are going with our next route from Budapest down to Belgrade. And in 2 years it was planned to be at the delta. The other thing I tried during the pandemic to found, we have founded a tourism academy specialized for guides, for taxi drivers, for bus drivers, for everybody who has to do with tourists or with visitors. And that's my biggest vision, or what I think is the problem, that we have no standard what an experience is, what it is to talk to people, or to guide them, or to explain them something, or whatever. So you have a small hotel, you have a pension. How do you connect with the travelers, with the visitors? And what we realized in Germany and Austria and everywhere where we train the guides or other people, nobody is talking about the standards of, everybody thinks that should be normal, that you should know how to make a great experience. But it isn't. And in all the guide association, they just focus on knowledge, on history, on culture and all that, but they never focus on the basics, the practical basics of how to guide people. And that has for me changed in the last years. We now have all the knowledge in our pockets with the smartphones. We do not longer need the Cicerones or the Wikipedias on to feed. We need people, and that's for me traveling. When I want to travel, I have my books with me, so I know everything from the books or from my smartphone. I want to have like an aha and wow effect, an eureka effect. I want to have when somebody explains me something which I can't read in books or whatever, where I get an overview, where I understand the region, why is the difference between East and West exactly like we have it now, or what is the problem with Putin now? What's behind all that at the moment? What can be a solution for that? And that must be a discussion with the guides, with the hosts, whoever I meet. And that's for me. So the vision is we should all have a standardization of how we meet people in the tourism industry. And the other thing is that the top should be these moments where we have a changing understanding. And I guide a lot in Linz, and Linz is changing is the slogan there, and that is for me also what travel and the industry should be in the future, that we change the people.
Thank you, Sebastian Frankenberger. This brings me already to the second round of debate. I took notes while you were speaking, the four of you, and I have here 4 or 5 keywords which you mentioned. So the one we started with, we need to reinvent the Danube. So this was somehow the starting point. Connections was very important. Connections on all kinds of of levels, and that these connections will be and are already different. So it refers also to how are those consuming these offers. They changed also. So as they changed, also the offers need to change. The context changed a lot. For example, that knowledge is available everywhere at every second in the smartphone. So these kind of things do not need to be somehow re-explained. Again, we are more conscious, or we start to be more conscious, but there is also, of course, need to learn and to take over responsibilities, to widen horizons, and altogether needs also further investment in the tourism ecosystem and also empowerment of new actors in the tourism ecosystem. I think Sebastian Frankenberger managed at the very end also taxi drivers, but also in general this kind of learning how to meet again, how to exchange, how to encounter. So the next round, I've talked too much, is how would you then reinvent based on these principles the Danube tourism offers? We know already, we have these stories which are in the making, we are having these new routes, but what would be for you most important, most promising ideas or vision? So if the impossible would be possible, so what would be the next step you would do for the Danube? What should happen for Danube tourism? How do you reinvent it? Who wants to start from the 4 panelists? Is it a too big question? So you can also come up with existing examples. Who wants to start?
Well, I think I mentioned it before what I did. I didn't answer on the question, what's the future of tourism? I answered especially on this questions you just gave us. I think it can be very successful in the future to integrate all these different aspects into the journey. But you have to find, you have the customers for this also, as I told you, but I think a specialized marketing on these topics would be very, very important, because it's not known that we all did these efforts in this last two years. I think we have very fine results. We have the 6 perfect routes. We have done 1 lighthouse project, but it's not very easy to sell. And because it's so different from that what the classical tourism does. We are doing something else, and the customer has to learn this, and he must invest his holidays in this.
Mm-hmm. How to teach then the customer? How could that happen? All the panelists can, of course, jump in. Or what are your practical experiences with your customers, maybe going for new adventures?
Well, our experience is that we have to explain very good what we are doing. I think for me, it's the most exciting trip of our whole program, for more than 200 different tours. But we did a lot of marketing, and it's not very easy to sell. So we are not on the way that we can go. And I don't know why, but I think it's different from the mainstream tourism on the Danube, and that's exactly the right way. But we have, I think the different countries, they should maybe make a general effort to promote the new ideas, because it's also not transcultural, it's also transnational. So a common agenda might be useful, but I have no.
What for me is interesting, that one of those bad players, or the big players, Viking River Cruises, 2014 already started to think about how can we have a better experience for our travelers, that when they're coming from one city to the next city, that they not hear the same story again, like ABC, another bloody church, another bloody cathedral, and always the same story. And they started a program to talk between the guides. I was also in the training group, in which city they should talk about which topic. So also the big industry is rethinking and think we must have better experiences. So the problem was why it did not succeed, or it was stopped, because the guides didn't want to work together. They said, I'm in Budapest, I don't care about Regensburg. And I think what this project started here, to bring us all together to work, transnational, that's the beginning of all, to realize that it's not important to list all the churches in the region from in my own region, that there should be a bigger story. So for me, the beginning is made. We have to continuously invite as many partners as possible and to really train them. We had a consulting 2 years ago in the summer period with local museums, with farmers, with a lot of the basic suppliers, and they had no understanding about the bigger interesting thing. So it's not important to train the tourism boards or to have papers or all that. We have to go to the people who are talking to the tourists and bring them together, and not only train them and give them a book or whatever. They must themselves have this. They must themselves do a travel along the Danube and to realize what's the region. They must really have the experience we want to have for the customers. Those suppliers who work with the customers must have themselves this experience.
Mm-hmm. So this brings me to Christoph Mühleder, who also raised his hand.
Yes, 2 points. The one is that at the moment I don't have, let's say, a problem to sell my sustainable trips, because I'm a small company, and I focus on those customers who are interested in this, and they are growing. But so it's still the market is still there for me, but I know I'm only a very little player, and what our target is, we want to change the whole. I don't say the word now that Julia doesn't like, and we need we need to change the whole tourism system, and we need to reach the big players. For me, one example that just came into my head, if we look back 10 years, it was normal, the discussion about fossil energy, for example. It made such a big change. Today, it is mainstream that if you build a new house, you will not have an oil heating or a gas heating, but you try to have a renewable system. 10 years ago, this was not the case. So this is now mainstream. And in the tourism, okay, maybe it starts already a little. That's what Sebastian said. And we have to think, how can we push this? How can we may have the same results than we had in my example, fossil energies. It was Fridays for Future, one part. So maybe we need tourists for future. No idea. Just but I think we are. So the frame. The whole frame is on our side. But we have to be fast, because otherwise, we talked about it, we will destroy our planet.
Mm-hmm. So urgency, but also a kind of transformation process which is already underway.
Kind of positive feeling. Think that there is something going on.
Mm-hmm. but still lots of efforts to be done. I would like to
much
bring,
faster, yes.
Yes, I would like to bring into the debate again Roland Kastler. Maybe you want also to add on your colleague's statements?
Yeah, for me, I mean, we have created political tours, philosophical tours, literature tours. And my experience is, for example, when we invented political study tours in Croatia, in Albania, and in Serbia, and so on. On these tours, we focused on discussions. So we didn't want that the people are provided with information in the normal way, but within discussions. So we always established a round table, and that the people had the chance to get a lot of knowledge when they came back. But for the future, I think all these things, the information is already there, and we have access to it. We have all the guides, we have all the artists. This is not the problem, I think, and I think it's also not the problem to establish standard levels, but we should more focus on the subjective side, not on the objective side. So it must be more important how much knowledge does one guest have. Yeah? At the extremist level, the most extreme level, sorry, I had an art tour, and the guide was a very famous professor of the University of Graz, and he didn't do any guiding at all, but he said to every guest in the group, what is your level? What do you know about the artists in Belgium, about art history? And then he started with every guest from the point of his information level. I know this is extremely complicated. You can't arrange any tour like this, and for our political study tours, these are the most complicated tours we have, because there is involved the University of Graz. We are involved as a tour operator. Then the Academy of Graz is involved, and also the city government with the European institution there. So this is extremely complicated to coordinate with all the people. But I think the future is the subjective side. Yeah.
Thank you very much also for these insights, and it brings us also again to a new round, and this round will be with our participants. So we open the floor again to all of you. Also previous speakers are invited. Please also from the project team use the occasion to ask questions to our four panelists, and we are still having roughly 10 minutes in order to further exchange. It's I think an excellent occasion to have all these people around our digital table and to reflect. Of course, you can also share your own experience, feedback. You can also bring in completely other points of view. This is the purpose of the discussion, and also different views can bring us forward, because they maybe reflect on elements we were not yet thinking about. Maybe also to share a short reflection from myself. I feel also now if we think all that from the offer side, that also preparing tourism offers, tourism products become very much a communication task. So it's very much about connecting, reaching out to different types of people. Maybe cooperation was not in place before, also to establish fair and sustainable cooperation settings with them. And on the other hand, also to see how to go ahead with a huge diversity in potential customers, in potential travelers and explorers, however we will then name those. So, but it's not about my point of view. So I look again into the round if there are additional questions and statements from the round. Maybe also we did not yet hear quite a lot from the project partners and from the also those being involved so far in the process related to their reflections. Is there a question? So we have Roland Nordermeyer who wants to step into the debate. Please.
Yeah, I'm wondering where you talk about the Danube region, enormous region. We talk about these narratives for people that visit the area, but how do you let the people who live there know about this narrative? So start from out of there, and then that they are proud of where they live, have their standards, have their narratives, and that they start sharing. I think then it will grow from out of there, because if somebody is traveling to that area with about a narrative, and the people there, yeah, they don't know it very well. I think first educating, strange word, the people who live there, and get them involved. And yeah, to get back to my thought about B&Bs and eat with people, meet the people in the street and the places, because then they're also proud to share the narrative and their culture, because there's so much to be discovered, cultural differences. I mean, I travel a lot along the Danube. Next week I go back 4 or 5 weeks on the lower Danube, and there's so much to discover there, and the discovery takes place when you talk with the people there. So you have to, when we have this narrative here, tell these people that that's the narrative, and they should talk about it. I think then it starts growing.
Thank you very much. I will collect also the statement of Gabor Bodis, and then maybe we go back to the panel. Please.
Okay, just a quick reflection. So the task is not impossible, and to some extent very easy, because we can base on everyday experiences of people, because all of us, whether we live along the river Danube or not, we have connection and deeper understanding and the symbolic understanding of what the water means. So it is, in this case, a constant renewal, and this is what we need when we travel. We want to charge our batteries, we want to have a sort of renewal, and the river, then you can represent it. And we can symbolize it in easy techniques. And also when it comes to the professional level, which I represent myself as well, the more we talk about it, the more we refer to it. It can be not just a pilot project in tourism, but a reference point, a flagship project as well. But you are right, you have to, or we have to make it more tangible and easy to understand. So our task is, the next task is to compartmentalize it a bit. So who does what and when, and what are the real translations and accessibilities of these narratives. And when people start to understand what we are talking about, it can be easily something that is fashionable and trendy and something people want to do and follow. So it is not impossible. Still, I think a lot of work is there in front of us, ahead of us. But the more we step in our own or within our own scopes towards the same goal, I think it will be more visible and understandable for the travelers as well.
Thank you, Professor Bodis. I go back to the panel before I give then the floor again to Professor Steiner, maybe for official goodbye to all the participants on behalf of the hosting organization. Yes, panelists, please, what do you say? What is about connecting to, for example, local population? What are your related experiences? How did you manage to bring in residents into the debates and also into maybe the co-development of narratives for your travel products, and also what has been developed in the framework of this project? Maybe Christoph Mühleder, you want to start with your experiences?
Yeah, okay, I have two points. I think one important one important thing is time. To meet the people. So if you have your bucket list and you work it off, then you won't meet the people because you have the whole day planned for visiting the most important sites that you have in the town or in the place. Of course, you should visit important sites because normally they are beautiful, but you should really reserve time, free time, spare time, and to make it, then encounters happen. And so we should try to bring these time into our programs, which is not normally part of a tour program, because people are used to have the whole day planned for them. But you can do it slowly, and it works. This is one point. The other, I think, what I tried once and what was a good experience, we split up into small groups of 3, 4, 5 persons of the big group of, let's say, 20, 25, and we had local people accompanying us from the community, which were pre-selected, and they were just showing their environment, how they live and where they live and what are their things that they do and like. So it's a little bit the greeter concept. We didn't do it with the greeters, but it was a little bit like this. And you can also do it in a social context. You go with social workers and you look on the social things of a city, of a country, and talk about the daily life of people there.
Thank you very much. Are there further insights from the panel? Then it's the last moment to share and to step in. Not for the moment. So there is Ms. Gruber who has raised her hand.
I just want to invite all the participants to follow the project, because I think we were talking a lot about the green travel products now and about what has to happen next to follow our paths that we follow now for 2 years in the project. And I think for the participants, maybe it's interesting what other activities are going on in the project, because there are things going on in the field of guiding, education, about informing local actors, like experience offers. We are working in different product clubs and try to spread the information about the Danube Travel Stories as wide as we can in this 2.5 years. And yeah, I would like to invite everybody to follow us and to sign in for the newsletter or go on Facebook and follow our page, because there we're keeping up with the information on the project. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to say at the end. Just to give everybody the idea that this is a really wide spread thing.
This is perfect, and maybe you want still to share the main link to the project in the chat so that everybody has easy access and can join your community and join your debates. Yes, this brings me to the end of today's online discussion and conference. Before I hand over for very last words from Professor Steiner, I would also take the occasion to thank you again for having joined us today for the very enriching and interesting debate. I hope it helped also for all your projects to have further reflections, further inspirations, and to see new ways to go forward and to better prepare for sustainable new tourism at the Danube and beyond. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Please, Mr. Steiner.
Yes, thank you, Sylvia, for the moderation, and thank you all participants for being there today afternoon, and thank you for all speakers. I think we have a great agreement to bring Danube forward in a higher quality of tourism in a lot of aspects what we discussed, and we know it's a very difficult way, yes, but what we discussed today afternoon, it could be the base for our next project after the Transdanube Stories. A new period for Transdanube International comes, and I think we should go forward this way. And now in this panel today afternoon, there was a group, there was a lot of participants. They want to go this way together, and I think it's necessary. And we will try to bring a corporate to organize, to realize a cooperation of a lot of partners like you, but some more to go this way into a new dimension of tourism philosophy along the Danube. I think Danube is the best, is a very, very good stage. And I invite you, help me together to realize new tourism in a new quality. We know what is our target, we know how it's to do, but as Sebastian Frankenberger said, we need standards, and at the end of standards, we need a brand for a base to sell better and to can sell these products for tourists, for guests. It's very difficult when we have a lot of ideas and a super philosophy, but we have no guests, and we have to solve these problems. But I'm very optimistic. Think you. We will work together, and thank you for your inputs. And I think we have a lot of things to do, but the way what we have to go, I think is very clear for me. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good afternoon. Stay healthy. Be peaceful.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
And greetings to all colleagues, and thank you, Georg Steiner.